Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developod. That's the podcast from TDSIG, IATEFL, Teacher Development Special Interest Group. We are sponsored by Cambridge and TOEFL. I'm Helen, and on today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Rose Aylett. Have I said that right? Rose
You
Aylett?
have. Well done.
Oh, yes, thank
First
goodness.
time.
Yeah. How would you describe your ELT self to our listeners, Rose? Go ahead.
Well, firstly, it's really great to be on, Helen. Thanks for the invite. I am a TD SIG developer, 100%er. I love your stuff, so it's a real honor to be asked
Oh,
to
thank you.
join. How would I describe my ELT self? I guess I am a teacher first and foremost,
Hmm.
although I don't do so much teaching these days, but
Hmm.
teaching kind of underlies everything that I do.
Yeah.
I now most of my work is in training.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm also a CELTA tutor, and
Hmm.
I sort of specialize in critical literacy and global
Hmm.
citizenship and critical pedagogy, which I'm sure we'll get into later in
Hmm.
our chat. So those are my
Absolutely.
kind of my areas of expertise or kind
Hmm.
of professional interest, I suppose.
Hmm. Yeah. And those who are familiar with you would remember you from your IATEFL plenary where you spoke about just that.
Yeah. I was very lucky to be invited to
Mhm.
speak. When was it? Was it 2024? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking about critical literacy.
Hmm.
Anyone who's interested, it's available on YouTube to catch up
Hmm.
on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So, I mean, you've talked about a lot of roles there. I mean, could you tell us a bit about the trajectory of your journey within ELT? Like, how long have you been developing within ELT? Where did you start? How did you end up here?
Yeah, so the I guess the starting point for my career, I have ELT on both sides of my family, which is
Oh.
weird. I didn't actually know this when I first got into English teaching. So on my dad's side,
Hmm.
my great uncle was involved in was kind of instrumental in the creation of Equals,
Oh.
a guy called Patrick Clare.
Hmm.
And on my mum's side, my grandmother set up a language school in the 70s, which is where I actually eventually qualified. And
Hmm.
I first started teaching when I was 18. I did Cert TESOL. And that was, I guess for those who don't know, it's the equivalent of a CELTA course. It's sort of a
Hmm.
month-long initial teacher training qualification.
Hmm.
And I really loved it. And then I went out to teach in Chile for a bit,
Hmm.
more kind of assisting. I was quite young at the time, still 18, 19. I turned 19 when I was out there. So I was
Hmm.
kind of assisting classes more than
Hmm.
leading them, I suppose. And then I carried on teaching in my university kind of holidays
Hmm.
over my undergrad. When I left university, I didn't want to become a teacher. If you've seen my IATEFL plenary, you'll know the story that I
Hmm.
actually applied to join the police.
Oh.
And because of one or two events in UK politics, that didn't work out.
Hmm.
And eventually I went back to teaching again. And I spent the first few years of my career teaching out in the Middle East and North Africa
Hmm.
with the British Council, with International House, with various different organizations. It
Hmm.
was a really fantastic experience. It kind of it's the foundation for everything that I do now. I
Hmm.
had to worked with some really great, got the opportunity to work with some really great students.
Hmm.
And and then yeah, I returned to the UK during the Arab Spring actually. I did a MA in Islamic Studies and then
Hmm.
my Delta, went back to the Middle East and did some ELT management jobs and
Hmm.
then finally made my way into training. And
Hmm.
I guess for the last almost 10 years, coming up 10
Hmm.
years, I've been freelancing based in the UK. And I now do a lot of work with NILE, Norwich Institute of Language Education.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. So quite a journey. I mean, from teaching assistant all the way to where you
Yeah,
are now. Now, can I ask what year that was? How many years you've been in ELT?
it's over 20.
All right.
It's around 20.
Wow.
It's around 20 now, basically. Yeah.
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 Wow. So, I mean, last year in 2025, we celebrated 40 years of TDSIG, right? So
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
are half the age of TD. Your time in ELT is like half the time that TDSIG
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, actually.
It
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
remember we celebrated big anniversary so one of the things that I absolutely love that I've done
mm,
as part of my role in sort of my various roles in TEFL was working
mm,
um, with IATEFL as
mm,
the Global Issues SIG coordinator. It was
yeah.
such a fulfilling thing to do, and I can't, I can sort of, I'm really so enthusiastic about this. I would anyone who can get involved with a special interest group
Hmm.
with IATEFL, I would strongly recommend it
Hmm.
because I think it's given me so much, and it's a real opportunity to give back to your
Hmm.
profession, but
Hmm.
it's also it gave me a real kind of insight into different contexts, and
Hmm.
I met some fantastic people. So
Hmm.
we celebrated, you just made me think of that because we celebrated our, what it been, 15-year anniversary, I suppose,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, 2025, I can't even remember. It was a while ago now.
Time flies. Now I'm thinking you were still the coordinator of GISIG at the time of the TD-SIG and GCIV joint web carnival, right?
I was,
The Race and
yes.
Queerness
Yes.
Carnival. That was my first real interaction with the IATEFL like and SIG community was participating in that
Yeah.
web carnival.
Yeah. That
So
was Tyson's
yeah,
initiative, and it was great to be part of that. And
yeah,
the web carnival's a lot of fun,
yeah.
and great to bring such important issues to the forefront of
Hmm.
ELT as well,
Yeah,
because to my knowledge, there'd been nothing like that before.
yeah,
Um, yeah, for those that don't know, that was a kind of it's an online celebration of
yeah.
race and queerness in ELT that year. You have a
Hmm.
web carnival every year, don't you?
We
For
do, yeah.
TDC.
And
Yeah.
interestingly, Elizabeth Coleman, who was one of the plenary speakers chosen then, now, like me, volunteers with TD-SIG and is in charge of events coordinating the Web Carnival. So things,
Yeah.
what goes around comes around, right? Things have a way of
Yeah,
coming back
yeah.
around.
And I think this was around about the time that I first met you and I first met Elizabeth. And
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, both
2022 was
fantastic
it?
contrib
2021? 2021, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah, 2021. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, it's funny the way things work out, but it's also, like you say, a good way to see how we can give back to our ELT community to something that hadn't been there before.
Yeah, I think
Make
there's a lot of creativity involved in the work in the
hmm
SIGs, and
hmm
um yeah, you get the opportunity to get involved in events and
hmm
set up, create events that haven't happened, or
yeah
that should be out there that aren't.
hmm
Um, we ran a whole load for GSIG during my time
hmm
working with colleagues in GSIG. Also, the opportunity to create. So we had a newsletter, but I kind of recreated that as an e-zine,
hmm
Futurity, which is something that I'm yeah, that was really fun at the time. It was a whole lot of work on
mm,
top of my actual work,
yeah
but again, a nice opportunity to showcase the
hmm
work of professionals around the
hmm
world as part of our English language teaching community,
hmm
and to put the great work that they're doing out there to a wider audience.
yeah
And I think that's something that, yeah, the IATEFL SIGs do really well.
yeah. Our coordinator James Taylor always says that the best thing he's found from volunteering with SIGs, because he's worked with so many, and I think is pretty prolific in in different places with different SIGs, is
Yeah,
that he's always felt that he has learned so many skills from being in a SIG. Like I'd never hosted a podcast before I
yeah.
started with TD SIG, and like here I am several years on, and that so there's a lot of skills and things that you pick up and way the people I've gotten to talk to on this podcast. I mean, you talk about being shall I say a fan, a listener.
Definitely a fan. I'm definitely a fan.
Oh,
Yeah.
uh,
Now I had a little foray into podcasting with the Global Issues SIG
mhm.
during the pandemic.
Mm.
Pandemic. I mean, everyone had a podcast during the
Well, yeah,
pandemic,
that's
didn't
true.
they?
Hmm.
But it's a yeah, again, a great opportunity to learn those kind of editing skills,
Hmm.
interviewing, hosting skills,
Yeah.
and a chance to meet people that you
Hmm.
kind of need an in to ask them. You want to ask them questions, you want to find out about their work, but if you have a podcast or you're part of the SIG and you're
Hmm.
interviewing them for the newsletter or for an e-zine or something like that, you've got
Hmm.
an in there, and you've got a reason to approach them and
Yeah.
ask them about their work. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And that's
great.
all development, right? Even something like a conversation, I think, can have a big impact on us personally and professionally sometimes. Those moments I
Oh,
think can
Helen,
come
I
from
think
anywhere.
conversations are probably for me the most important thing that has
Mhm.
influenced my work over the years.
Mhm.
Kind of, we always talk about the conversations in the staff room,
Yeah.
if you are lucky enough to have a staff room, because not
Mhm.
everyone does, of course,
True.
but chats, yeah, just dialogue, I think is a
Hmm.
big part of my work.
Hmm.
But conversations with other teachers, that
Hmm.
is development for me, I think.
Yeah.
It's like having this conversation we're having now, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a kind of formalized, structured
Mm.
conversation. Could be very, very informal, very just a little chat over,
Hmm.
you know, coffee break, and you are struggling with an issue in class, and you ask a more experienced colleague or a peer, someone, just get a bit of advice.
Hmm.
Especially when I was first starting out teaching, that was a big part of my development, and still now as a trainer, it's all the
Mm.
conversations we have. Um, while I'm working here, I'm actually in Norwich at the moment, which isn't where
Hmm.
I'm based usually, but while I'm working here in the summer, we stay on site at the University
Hmm.
of East Anglia, and we are surrounded by the other trainers that we're working with. And so
Mm.
we're having these kind of conversations all the time.
Hmm.
And so I'm very lucky because it's sort of one long developmental summer.
That's awesome. And also, we mustn't underestimate what we can get from new trainees or recently qualified teachers as well. They sometimes have, insights from the latest research or something that's happened in their class or just a different perspective, right? So I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
learning moments can come
The-
from anywhere.
yeah. The
Yeah.
different perspective for sure. Because
Hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I work on CELTA courses
Hmm.
fairly frequently.
Hmm.
And so a number of the participants on those courses are early career teachers, but many
Hmm.
of them not. And there's so much learning to be had by someone coming to the profession with fresh eyes
Hmm.
and, not being institutionalized,
Yeah.
and having done the same thing for year after year after year.
Yeah.
So yeah, fresh perspective, definitely very
Yeah.
important.
Absolutely. So, I mean, following that train of thought, I mean, are there any particular people or any particular conversations that you can look back on that have influenced your career?
Oh, I'm sure if I thought long and hard enough, I could probably think of conversations.
Mm.
But um, people, I think whether or not we acknowledge them as formal mentors, I think we probably all have mentors in our profession, and in our kind of over the years of our careers. Um, I don't know if I should name the individuals, but I'll just say that yeah, there are one or two people
Mm.
who I've worked with very, very closely on a number of different projects,
Hmm.
who have really influenced what I do. They've
Hmm.
been incredible support when I've really struggled.
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, they're the person you go to when you're really seeking,
Hmm.
you're looking for answers, you're
Yeah.
looking for solutions, and you can't find them in your immediate context. So
Hmm.
yeah, there are definitely people, and I'm still lucky to work with some of them now. They
Hmm.
would probably say, no, we're a mate. But yeah, it's
This is
yeah,
a,
they're
they
probably
know who they are scenario. You don't need to name them because they know who they are.
yeah, but I don't think they would describe themselves as mentors. So
Hmm.
often I think we think of mentors as kind of more like a more formal relationship, but it
Mm.
doesn't have to be that. It's
Yeah.
just there are people out there who influence what you do,
Mm.
who have who know you well enough to be able to tell you
Hmm.
what you need as well as what you want to know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
those kind
always
of
about what
people.
we want. Sometimes it's about what we need.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, you've come a long way from, teaching assistant to, management to training. I mean, what sort of training and qualification decisions have you made along that journey? For those who are interested in following that kind of trajectory, are there
Mhm.
any particular, training courses you did or, things you would recommend in terms of qualifications?
Yeah, so um, firstly, I think it very much depends on your context,
Yep.
because there are qualifications that I might recommend that are not recognized or are not important in your context. So the first place to start, I would say, is just think about where you're working,
Hmm.
and what are the qualifications that are held in high regard where you are.
Hmm.
Um, for me, getting into ELT, it was important to be qualified. I suppose I probably didn't need to get a qualification when I first started
Hmm.
teaching, but I
Hmm.
think it's always a good idea to.
Hmm.
Um, And um, so I first started when I was 18, and I got the Trinity Cert TESOL.
Mm-hmm.
Then moving on later in my career, when I decided that I really wanted to take it seriously and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to just kind of, I guess I was coasting as a
Mm.
teacher. I knew enough. I could teach, the difference between past simple and present perfect with my eyes closed.
Mm.
And I was just kind of coasting. But I wanted to go further, and I wanted to take the
Mm-hmm.
career seriously. And at that point, I decided I wanted to do the Delta. Um, so yeah, it's a bit of pick and mix really with my career in terms of switching from one exam board to the other. You
Yeah.
don't have to stay with Trinity. If you start with a Trinity certificate, you can then switch to Cambridge Delta
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
My diploma was probably one of the best qualifications I've ever taken, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think um, unfortunately, it seems to be a bit of a pathway into management and takes you out of teaching, whereas actually the diploma, I think, is when you're at your best in terms of
Mm-hmm.
your teaching knowledge and experience. And,
Mm.
so, and I guess that was to some extent the case for me because I then moved into management and later training. Um, Beyond that, hugely influential, not qualification, but process that
Mm-hmm.
really influenced how I train would be shadowing. To become a CELTA tutor, you have to shadow
Mm-hmm.
a course. So working with Nick Bagley, who was at the time the head of teacher training for British Council
Mm-hmm.
Aguza in Egypt. He
Mm-hmm.
trained me up as a CELTA tutor, and I shadowed his course. On that course were also two fantastic trainers, Erica Diru, who sadly passed away a number of years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
who was a fantastic influence at that time in my kind of training career,
Mm-hmm.
and Doa Zakaria, who is also working in the Middle East, still out for the British Council. So I had some really wonderful trainers to observe and to learn from, and to have all those kind of important conversations that we've just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess, yeah, shadowing a CELTA course is very different to actually doing the course, but the learning curve is probably just as steep because
Mm.
although I thought I knew a bit about training, um, you realize that you have a lot more to learn very, very quickly. And
Yeah.
there's a huge amount to learn about the actual kind of process of the administration. It's obviously an accredited qualification, so you need to know a lot about the
Mm-hmm.
kind of the assessment methods and so on,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure the assessment is fair. And so all of that. And then I don't know. Since then, I've done a few qualifications. The Consultants E. I've done an online e-learning, kind of
Mm-hmm.
e-moderation certificate with them, and that was great because so much work now is online and is all
Yeah.
about forum management, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, a lot of the ways I learn now is, like I said, less formal, but it's through the actual creation of materials, through my own training materials, rather than attending
Mm.
courses and collecting certificates. And I think I've moved very much from when I was an early career teacher. I think gaining certification, gaining qualifications was probably a lot more important to me. As it is important in your career to get
Mm.
official acknowledgement. And I suppose I'm lucky I've got to a point now where I have some of that on my CV. And now a lot of my development comes from trying out new material, writing training sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to train about a particular subject, a bit like teaching it, you have to know the subject inside out because you'll get
Mm.
asked lots of questions about it.
Yeah.
And being able to write really creative, innovative training materials on something I'm interested in, and the process of the research and the exploration of that subject matter, and being
Mm-hmm.
able to kind of translate that into something that is easily digestible for
Mm-hmm.
teachers at various stages of their career. So that's
Mm.
probably where I get most of my development these days, as well as IATEFL, obviously, but we can come on to that if you like.
No, that's quite all right. I mean, given how influential your diploma was on it, is that something you could see in your future, training the diploma? Because you train the certificate now. Would you like to train the diploma in the future?
I'm not sure. I mean, you have to kind of look at where your strengths lie. I really like being in the classroom. That's one of
Mm,
the things I really love about being a trainer.
mm,
Although a lot of the work I do now is not so much classroom based, at least in the traditional
mm,
sense. I do face-to-face classroom teaching over my summers, but
mm,
a lot of online work is now
mm,
either remote and it's asynchronous,
mm,
so you're not necessarily in a classroom,
mm.
a kind of physical Zoom room. Sometimes I am, but not always. Um, I like that side of my work. That's probably the stuff I enjoy the most.
Mm-hmm.
Never say never.
Yeah.
I'll keep that door open,
Yeah.
but it's not something that I'm desperate to do anytime soon.
All right. So then where do you think your ELT journey is going?
Oh, who knows?
Well, we've talked
I
about the past and the present a bit.
yeah,
How about the future?
yeah. Um, I mean, have really enjoyed becoming a specialist. I don't
Hmm.
like to use that term. I think we kind of have to now if we're
Yeah.
freelancers um to make people aware of what we do.
Yeah.
So I have really enjoyed learning about a particular sort of subset of ideas, a particular area of pedagogy, um, and becoming really quite knowledgeable in that area. And
Hmm.
part of that for me was writing the course I now run for NILE,
Yeah.
Global Citizenship in Language Education.
Hmm.
Um, so the process of as I say, like writing training materials on that particular subject matter, that particular area,
Yeah.
um, has been fascinating. And
Hmm.
I think there's so much more to learn. Like when you start exploring, a lot of people finish their initial teacher training and they think, okay, we've got it, we've got the basics. There's so much more. There's so much
Hmm.
more to learn. There's always so
Yep.
much more to learn. And I think as an industry, we're pretty good at, um, as a profession, I should say, I don't like the term industry. As a
Mm.
profession, we are good at understanding that, learning should never stop. CPD
Yep.
is an ongoing process that should continue until the
Lifelong.
last lesson you teach.
Yep.
Um, and I think I've really barely scratched the surface in terms of what I would like to explore and share with people in the field of global citizenship and
Hmm.
critical pedagogy. Um, yeah, so I think probably I don't have any particular projects lined up. At the moment,
Hmm.
it's more about developing the course even
Yeah.
further,
Hmm.
trying to get it out there as much as possible,
Hmm.
trying to make people aware of it through the various talks and other work I do,
Hmm.
and also, of course, sharing lots of those ideas. Not everyone can do the course. I
Hmm.
recognize that. And so
Yeah.
making sure that I can share some of those ideas, practices, and approaches with teachers through other means.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, is this your future then? Is this your, I mean, I sometimes hesitate to use the word niche, but is this your niche? Is this your area? Is this your passion project
I
that you
think
see yourself carrying on?
I think it always has been. And
Yeah.
so I suppose I formalize it in the sense that now I have the vocabulary to describe what I'm interested in and what
Mm,
I know
mm,
about, my
yeah.
sort of area of expertise, for want of a
Hmm.
better phrase. But I can remember back when I was teaching in Cairo, my first ever full-time job as an
Hmm.
English teacher
Yeah.
abroad. I was working for the British Council in Egypt, and I got really interested in a
Hmm.
project, a CPD project, which I initiated, which was called Dealing with Diversity. And I
Hmm.
just remember that was what I was interested in
Hmm.
more than the textbook or the course book based teaching that we
Yeah.
were being asked to do. This was a
Hmm.
little side project, but it became my main thing, my main area of interest while I was
Hmm.
out there.
Yeah.
Threw myself into it, and that's kind of snowballed over the years. And I guess it stems from an interest in difference and difference in terms of culture and language, and also I suppose power and inequality, that the power, the inequalities that we see in the world. I suppose that
Yeah.
it's sort of noticing and being aware of that and trying
Hmm.
to bring an awareness of that into the work that I do through my teaching and
Hmm.
helping, not I mean I'm under no illusion that the work that I do is not going to solve any of these problems, but
Yeah.
it's a small part of raising people's awareness of what we can do through language education to make the world a better place. It's
Rather
very
than,
cliched, but
I don't think that's cliched, rather than sort of divorcing ourselves from the world we live in and acting as though our classroom is in isolation.
exactly.
Sort of
So that's I guess, yeah, kind of
embracing
Paulo
everything we bring
Freire's.
in to the classroom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Being
yeah.
open
So
to
kind
it.
of reducing those barriers between
Hmm.
the classroom and the outside world. So
Hmm.
we have classroom walls, but they're, kind of they need to come down. We need
Yeah.
to bring more of the outside world.
Hmm.
The politics of the everyday is an expression that I use quite a lot to describe this. We need to use
Hmm.
so bring more of that into the classroom, and then also make sure that the students that we're working with, whether they may be language students
Yeah.
or teachers, if you're working in teacher education, um, know how they can take action to
Hmm.
that applies in the real world. So they have
Yeah.
the language and the skills to be able to make a difference outside their classroom as well as inside it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you said earlier that you've been in ELT for about 20 years. I mean, we look at ELT over
Mm.
that time, it's changed a lot. You talked about that like critical awareness raising. Is that something you've seen change over the past, 20 years? You're part of that change.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I hope I'm part of it, but the I suppose being asked to do a talk on it is a sign that already
Mm,
the profession, and I'm referring to my IATEFL plenary, I suppose.
mm,
Over the years, I've been at IATEFL since I think my first was 2010 or 2011.
wow.
And over the years that I've been, not quite every year, um, increasingly the last few years, there have been more and more speakers that have plenary speakers that have been asked to
Hmm.
speak about social issues,
Yeah.
global citizenship type
Hmm.
issues, social justice related themes. And that is a reflection of society as
Mm.
much as it is an awareness, our industry kind of learning that this is important to teachers. Um,
Our
I think
profession.
it's even been commented. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, our profession.
Well, that's what you said
um,
earlier, so.
yeah, no, I try to be really careful about the
That's all right.
language that I use because I think it's important.
Mm,
But yeah, I think yeah, I do think it has changed.
hmm.
There's, but at the same time, there's always been as long as pretty much not quite as long as IATEF has existed, but the Global
Mm,
Issues SIG has been around for a very long time.
yeah.
And there are always teachers that have cared about these kind of things. There's also obviously now special educational needs and inclusive
Hmm.
practices SIG as well. And I
Hmm.
think you find it within IATEFL that the special interest groups are all talking about these kind of things. It's becoming much more mainstream, so that
Yeah.
is a change, and it's really good
Hmm.
to be part of that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, with that movement in mind, I suppose, we've talked about your course, we've talked about your ITEFL plenary. I mean, are those the things you're most proud of when it comes to your professional development journey? Or is there something else that you think, yeah, you know what, I'm proud of that contribution to ELT?
Yeah, I think the other thing I would add to that is working as the coordinator of global issues, so because I
Hmm.
think that was such a wonderful opportunity for me to, like I
Hmm.
said earlier, to meet so many great professionals and to I saw it as a role that was because I don't really like self-promotion, Helen. I'm not very good at it. I'm not on social media very
Yeah.
much. I like the fact that working with the other teachers and trainers and managers that I was working with in the Global
Mm.
Issues SIG, that I could um, use that as a chance to
Hmm.
share their work, promote their work,
Mm.
promote what they're doing.
Hmm.
Um, and I suppose you were asking where am I going next? I suppose that's what I need to look for is another opportunity to do that, to
Ah,
share what other people are doing.
yeah.
Because yeah, I'm just talking about myself doesn't sit very comfortably with me. But I suppose these days everyone has to self-promote. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but ideally, I like to share what else is going on in the
Hmm.
profession.
Making connections, lifting people up.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what it's all about. If we're trying to achieve social change, whether it's within our profession, outside of our profession, it is all about connection. It's all about
Mm,
bringing people together.
yeah.
Um, and there are so many different ways we can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the next project. Thanks.
Ah, you're welcome. I mean, is that the main thing you want our listeners to take away? To make connections within ELT, to lift people up, to look for opportunities to work with others. Is that if they had to take away sort of one main thing from our chat today, is that it, or is there something else that you think actually?
Yeah, I think been thinking, reflecting about values recently, and I
Hmm.
suppose I have. I think I've got two main core values. One of them doesn't really, perhaps it does apply to ELT. I don't know. I think my two main values are connection would be one of them. That would
Mm.
definitely be the number one. And so, yes,
Hmm.
in a word. The other is adventure. That
Ooh.
probably, to some extent, it does apply to ELT because I
Hmm.
think in some of the work that I've done, I've had to take risks. I've had to push myself and outside of my comfort zone, but also kind of just push back a little bit against some of the established understandings of, what we can say, can't say, what we can talk about. Try and
Hmm.
encourage teachers to embrace a level of discomfort that they might not always be happy
Hmm.
with in their classroom in terms of their exploring of what might be considered a controversial political topic.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, that's quite adventurous, I suppose, to some extent. So, yeah, definitely, I would encourage people to be more adventurous and to try and connect more. There you go.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Rose. I mean, a huge thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate you stepping out of the role of listener and into participant. Um,
It's
really
been a great
happy.
pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Now, if our listeners want to know more about you, um, where can they find you on, online and social spheres?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
That's my main social media, so they can find me on there.
Grant. All right. Now, reach out to Rose on LinkedIn. Don't forget to stay in touch with TDSIG. Follow us on all our social media platforms. IATEFL TDSIG or TDSIG only. Make sure that you subscribe to Developod. Hit that subscribe button on whichever app you're using. Thank you again to our sponsor, Cambridge. Um, Thank you, Rose, for coming on the show. And thank you to our listeners. And see you next time.
Thanks so much, Helen.